Morning. It is, what do we have here? Wednesday morning, 9 o'clock a.m. on the Pacific Coast. This is the first edition of Windows Daily and first episode of Task Manager. In the description of the video, you'll find information about what I intend this series to be and how often it's going to be. So, without any further ado, I'm going to get right into the topic. I'm going to punch over here to the Big Beast Build monitor number 3 and bring up Task Manager. There's a few ways to bring up Task Manager. I'm going to show a variety of them now. I'm going to come down here to the taskbar, right click, and then from this menu choose Task Manager. That opens up Task Manager. I'm going to close that. And then if I do Control-Alt-Delete, it brings up a window that I can select Task Manager from. However, if I do that on the computer that I'm broadcasting, it's going to interrupt. You'll just see a black screen. So I'm going to take the second method over here on the Windows button in the bottom right corner. I'll right-click on the Windows button, and then from there choose Task Manager. That brings up Task Manager. The next method, I'll hold down the Control and Shift key on the keyboard and press the Escape key. Of course, you're not seeing me press those keys. I guess I could use the keyboard camera, but I think describing the Control, Shift, and Escape key is probably sufficient. And then another method, you could press Windows key R to bring up the Run command. Let's see if I can move that over to monitor 3. Yeah, there it is. As it appeared on my monitor number 1, and you can type Task NGR and press Enter. Boom, there's your Task Manager. Another method, we could press Windows key R. I'm going to drag that over to monitor 3 again and type CMD to bring up a command prompt. I'll have to drag that over to that monitor. From a command prompt, even if you're rebooting the computer and having trouble booting the computer, if you can get to a command prompt, you can do Task NGR from a command prompt, press Enter, and there's your Task Manager. If you're installing Windows and you get to that screen where it's asking for a username, you can press Shift F10 at that point and get a command prompt. And one of the techniques for being able to configure Windows 11 without a Microsoft account is to bring Task Manager up and then end task on I think it's down in the Windows processes. I'm not going to be able to display it here because, of course, I'm not initializing Windows 11 right now. But there's a task in here that has to do with a network connection. I have another video on my channel that describes how to do that, so I'm not going to do that now. Now, what if you've got maybe you're on a phone call with somebody who's having trouble with their computer, and you want them to go into Task Manager. Well, these techniques for launching Task Manager is going to be different the first time it is done on any particular user account. To demonstrate that, I'm going to switch over to Baby Beast, which I have logged on this morning with a brand new user account. So this user account on Baby Beast has never gone into Task Manager yet. If you're new to my channel, you might not know what I mean by Baby Beast and Big Beast. Well, this computer behind me, I think I have a view of it blocked right now. It's behind this computer that's on my desk. That guy over there is called the Big Beast Build. It was built by Kerry Holzman live on during his live streams. It actually has 2 computers in it, 2 motherboards, 2 power supplies, 2 full computers inside that one case. The main one, the big one that I do the broadcasting from, we call Big Beast Build, and then the smaller micro ATX board, micro ITX board, I think it's called, is what I refer to as Baby Beast. So coming back over to Baby Beast and showing, let's do Control-Alt-Escape. That just brings up this little screen that says Task Manager. It looks like there's no tasks running whatsoever. If I close that and then come down to the taskbar, right-click and choose Task Manager, I get the same thing. Any of the techniques for opening Task Manager are going to operate the same way. I'm coming over to the Windows button and going to Task Manager. And then what you need to do is click on More Details. So if you're a technician, whether you're an amateur or professional technician, and you're on phone support with someone perhaps, and you want them to go into Task Manager, you might not remember that this window is the first one that comes up the first time Task Manager is called up in any particular Windows login. So once you have done this more details, then in the future, this user account, even if it's weeks from now, is going to come up this way. Once you have Task Manager open, then there's a number of things that we can go do in trying to troubleshoot a problem on the computer. Before we start looking into that, I'm going to do one more demonstration of calling up Task Manager, and that'll be on Windows 11. This computer behind me has Windows 11. I'm going to show that it has a very wide format screen. So when I call it up on my capture device, it's going to have a little different kind of layout. Here we go. So this is that computer, and it looks a little odd to you, the layout. I want to point out that down at the bottom, see, I need this keyboard and mouse to point this out to you. Down in the bottom here where the taskbar is, that black area below that, I don't think I can actually point to it with the mouse right now. That black area below that is actually off screen. So this is showing kind of a narrow, long, and very wide image. And up here is the top. If I move the mouse up a little bit further, it doesn't go up any higher because that's the top edge. So here's Windows 11. I'll right-click on the taskbar. Can we open Task Manager from there? No, we cannot. That is not available on right-click on the taskbar. Windows 11, if I do Control-Shift-Escape, that works, and this is the first time that Task Manager has been called up on this computer. So then I can click on more details, but I'm not going to do that just yet because I'll go ahead and demonstrate a couple other ways. I'll right-click on the Windows button in Windows 11, and is Task Manager available there? And yes, it is, but it's so tiny it's hard for me to see. There it is, and I can click on that and it brings up Task Manager. Can I do Windows key R for the run command, Task MGR, and press enter? Yes, I can. It comes up. And then the last method, Windows key R and CMD to bring up the command prompt. And then in this command prompt window, I'll type TASK MGR and press enter, and there's Task Manager. So those are the methods for Task Manager in Windows 11. Now to go to the next phase of what can we do with Task Manager, I'm going to bring up the Big Beast build on monitor 3, where I have Task Manager open. You saw me open that earlier. This can be sorted by different columns. If you're on a tech support call with somebody over the phone and you're asking them for information on here, you need to remember that they might be seeing the layout a little differently. It's possible that they have that screen sorted by the name column. That's the default method, is to be sorted by the name column. If I go up to the top, we'll see that when we're sorted that way, we have apps at the top. So these are the apps that are open and visibly running. A person could Alt-Tab to switch to them. Then we have background processes. So those are things running in the background that are taking up some amount of system resources, although you see most of the time they're at 0%. If we scroll down to the next section, we get to Windows processes. So there's 3 different sections on this name column. When you're on a phone support call to somebody, they might not be seeing these 3 sections because their screen might be sorted by the CPU column. When I click on that column, there are no section headings. Everything is lumped here together. So I'll go back up to the top. They might be sorted by the memory column or the disk column. How can you find out when you're talking to them over the phone how their screen is sorted? The answer is you have to guide their attentions, and it's difficult to do, to this arrow that's pointed down. So what verbiage are you going to use to talk to them, to ask them, look at the column headings and tell me which column has an arrow pointed up or an arrow pointed down? The arrow pointed down could describe as the letter V, like we see here. So the arrow pointed up, you could say it's an up-down V, or you could call it the caret symbol because that's actually on the number 6 key on your keyboard. If you click again on any of these columns, it reverses the sort order. So if I click again, now that arrow is pointed down. So the arrow can be pointed up or the arrow can be pointed down on only one of these columns at a time. So when you're on this phone support call with them, you might, rather than trying to ask them about the arrow, you just might tell them to click in the column heading that you're interested in, and then tell them in that column heading, do you see an arrow pointed down or an arrow pointed up? You could tell them that if you click again in that heading, the arrow will change so it's pointing up. And if you keep clicking, it'll be pointing up or pointing down. And that can be a way to help them understand what you mean when you ask for the arrow that's pointed up or pointed down. Let's go back to the sorting in the name column. So the default method is for the sorting to be in a ascending order. Ascending meaning the lowest letter in the alphabet is at the top, and then the rest of them are increasing in their alphabetic order. You might be wanting to know, do any of your items show up in this section as not responding or suspended? You might see a word not responding or suspended in the status column. You might just be asking them what is open right now. You might be wanting them, for instance, if they have one of those spam flooding messages on their browser that's telling them that they're infected, and wanting them to call a phone number. And it could be just visual messages on screen, or it could be audio messages. It's playing through their speakers. I've had clients call me, and I can hear it through the phone, this very threatening voice saying that they've done something in violation of something or other and notifying FBI or IRS, or you must call this phone number right now. Don't close anything on your computer. Call this phone number, and we can help you. Well, what you can do in that case is just click on that item. You can right-click, tell them to right-click, and click in task. It has always been the case where I can tell them to end task on that, and it all stops right now. And then they can actually open their browser, and it's functioning completely normal again. If their computer is running very slowly, and you're trying to troubleshoot what's going on, you might want to sort by the CPU column. The first time you click in the CPU column, it's going to be in, well, it could either be ascending or descending order, depending upon what was last used for this column. In order to figure out what's slowing a computer down, we want to sort by the CPU column in descending order, meaning we have the highest consuming item at the top. For the Big Beast build, the highest consuming item right now is XSplit Broadcaster, because that's how I'm live streaming. I'm live streaming this right now onto YouTube, and it's taking up the most of my CPU time. We could also sort by the memory column to see what's taking the most memory. Surprise, surprise, it's also XSplit for me. We could go to the disk column and see what's taking up the major short or the largest share of disk time. And for me, it's XSplit also, with a 0.5 megabytes per second. Well, XSplit is actually saving this recording on my storage drive at the same time that we're live streaming. I called it my storage drive instead of calling it my hard disk, because of course you probably know that it's not a hard disk on my computer, it's an NVMe solid state storage. And then in the network column, same idea. We can sort there and find out what's taking up the most space. Surprise, surprise, it's XSplit for me again. The graphics card, what's taking up the most graphics card time, and it's also XSplit. Power usage, we can check out that column. Again, it's XSplit. And this power usage column says power usage trend. Yeah, I haven't looked into that. I'm not sure. I think maybe that's the amount of changing it's done. I've never even looked at that. And that's something that happens when I do these live streams or even the recordings. I'll start describing things on the screen, describing them more detail than what I usually use them for. And come across something, I'm not sure what that is. So that makes us about a 15-minute video. I think that's good for today. Tomorrow we're going to continue on with more of Task Manager. I'm not intending to interact very much with the chat room during these live streams, but I will look at all the chat comments afterwards, and I'll be looking at the comments that are posted on this video after it's over with, and likely responding to anything that I find that's on point or on topic. If you haven't read the description of this video, you ought to go do that so that you understand the nature of how these live streams are going to be working Monday through Friday mornings around 9 a.m. Pacific time. So I hope that was useful. Have a great day. Catch you later. Goodbye.